Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode with myself, Jack Ravel. Today, we're going to be interviewing the wonderful David Angel, who is not just a sales guru, he's a TEDx speaker and an all-round lovely gentleman. David and I have been chatting for quite a while, and I thought it would be a really beneficial interview to bring on to speak to you guys on, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're watching this, you're going to get some serious insight today, because David is honestly one of the most honest and integral salespeople I've ever met, but also his methods are so easy to understand, which is why I'm so excited to kind of bring him on and kind of talk through them. So first of all, welcome to the show. David, how are you?
I'm really good. Thanks. Good intro. When someone does a good intro, it just boosts you up, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's all right. You can send me the money in the post later. It's all good. So look, first of all, let's just start high level. Tell us a bit about who you are and what you do, and so people get an idea as to who they're hearing from today.
Hi, everyone. So I'm branded as the Sales Angel, as we've just gone through. My name's David Angel, and I deal with sales, and it just makes sense. The whole Sales Angel brand come around was trying to think of a catchy handle to use on social media, and it just keeps it nice and simple. I've been in sales for over 20 years, and I've just really sucked at sales. So I very much had to become a good student of the game, and I've kept it that way. And everything I now teach are things that I've actually done in the trenches, actually in the sales. I don't just read stuff from someone else's book and just go and talk about it and regurgitate it. It's always about, this is what I've done, this is how it worked for me, or this is how it didn't work for me, but here's some of the stuff. And what I try to do is help people cut down the learning times that they've got, because if I can teach someone in 3 months what I took 20 years to learn, to implement, to action, it just increased the results. And now I'm hired by entrepreneurs, small business owners, even through corporations, to come into their businesses, find blind spots, help people get their products working, help people get programs out there, and get people just kicking ass and closing deals. It's pretty much what I do.
Amazing, good stuff. And so what I want to do today is I want to just take it through essentially quite a structure of, first of all, let's put sales on a pedestal, right? Let's put sales in a place where we understand why it's so important, right? There are so many businesses, so many people out there who don't get why it's so important. And at the end of the day, if you don't have sales, you don't have a business, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to look at is the mistakes people make. I want to look at why people don't actually make sales and all the rest of it. And then the third thing, I want to look at some potential methods that are unique to you and why you are so good at what you do. So if that's cool, we'll start from the top. So tell us, sales, you've been in for 20 years. What makes sales such an important part of not just your life, but any business that it involves in the world?
And it's a good starting point with anything. And I think there's two sides. One, sales gets a bad rap because sales is integral to every business. If you've got a business now that doesn't involve someone buying a product, a service, or an idea, I don't know what you've got. I mean, a business without sales is a hobby, basically. And a lot of the time when we're at the stage when we talk about sales, people get uncomfortable about the idea of sales or selling like it's based on desperation. Like you're trying to force people and convince people. You're really not. With the way the internet is set up now, especially, if you go back pre-internet and we lived in Swindon and I sell carpets, random selection, I know. I've got to find people in my local area to buy the exact carpets I've got in my store, right? So what would end up happening a lot of the time is you might not get the carpet you want, but they convince you it's a good idea because they need to sell the carpets that they've got in the store. Now, it's not about convincing people they need your product. Now it's about finding the people that want or need your product and identifying the people that can buy it and won't buy it in the quickest amount of time. So you're not wasting a lot of time in it. Where a lot of people get caught up on with some mind games that are going on and we're trying to look into my eyes, I'm going to help you buy my product. Like that's just so outdated of an idea. Now we have access to everyone at our fingertips. So it's vitally important to understand why people buy from us, what are their hurdles, and work out how do we go from them not knowing who we are to them loving what we've got in the quickest amount of time possible and in the way that they want to buy. Because that's one of the real big things in sales. A lot of people spend a lot of time selling in the way they like to buy. So I am very much a red personality. I'm a self actuator. So I don't need people to show me a graph or a chart. I'm very much hype myself up. But if I go to sell a product in a hyped fashion in the way I like to buy, and you're an analytical buyer, meaning you want the graphs, the charts, the facts, the figures, the stats, it's not going to work in the same way. And a lot of people are only comfortable in selling based around their own personality. Where actually, if you're effective in sales, for example, if analytical buyers make up 30% of the buying population, and if you've got a really techie product, but you can't sell to an analytical person, you're really restricting what you need to do. So you need to be able to put on their glasses, think in their mind, speak the words that they say in the way they like to do it, and cover the objections that they've got. And when you can package that into an easy way, you've got sales.
I love that. So first of all, a couple of questions there. You mentioned analytical buyers. You mentioned sort of like, I suppose there's logical buyers, there's emotional buyers. There's quite a few of them, right? How do you identify somebody, or like you jump on the phone, someone or whatever? How do you know what type of buyer they are?
Okay, so there's a number of different things, and this is where a lot of people get confused. There's a really good book out there for personality types called The Color Code. I never know what way my camera's going. It's opposite on my side. So this talks about your personality types. So we've got colors in the shortest possible way. This gives you a full breakdown on everything that you possibly need. In the same way that you get personality types, so you get your reds, yellows, but you've also then got buying types. So personality types are based on you as a person. So for example, imagine you're a yellow and you're really heavily relationship-wise. If I want to sell to someone who's very relationship-wise, coming in like a bull at a china shop, talking about flashing lights and all this stuff is not going to work. They buy into you. So you've then got the buying types. So if you've got a self-actuator who's very relationship-wise, it's a really weird mix because they like to sell themselves, but they like relationships as well. But a relationship could stop them taking action as well. Other people are very relationship-wise, but they're also analytical. So we're not just one or another. When you do something like a DISC assessment, it's really helpful to do for yourself because the way we think we are and the way we actually are is really, really different. And what's some of the stuff you can look at, and this is not exact for anything because everyone's a different gauge. And as we grow, we change. Like I read loads now. I wouldn't say I'm heavily analytical, but I like a degree of stats. But you can also bore the crap out of me with stats. So when we're looking at things, you can listen for words, you listen to actions, you can look at the way they act. When you're talking about people that are very visual, for example, so we get visual, we get kinesthetic, we get audio, you'll hear the words that they say, and you can adapt the words and the way you explain things. So if you're a really visual person and we're talking about things, and I'm saying, right, okay, well, Jack, what I want to do is I want you to be able to see exactly what I'm looking at right now. And what we're going to do is take a bird's eye view and we're going to look down on things so you can get a wide picture and you can see the wood from the trees and what we're doing, right? If you are someone who is auditory, you go, listen, sounds to me, and I've been listening to you a lot and I love what you're saying. And the way I hear it's this, if we're going to ring the bell on this and get it in the right order, what we really need to do is sound out every single, right, auditory words. Now, yeah. Now, does that mean because I say bell or ring or sound or I say sky or mist, that it's going to work? No, but it's all little things that all add little bits and little layers in the way we're talking. Now, this isn't saying don't be yourself. And this is the thing, I had someone the other day and he said, listen, I'm not going to change the way I am for anyone. I'm like, okay, cool. When you used to go and see your nan, did you act in the same way as when you were at the pub? Well, no, because it's my nan. Okay, so you softened your tone, right? You spoke a bit slower. You spoke a bit softer. So you did change it. And you do change it. What you're not comfortable doing is doing it now because you feel like people don't deserve it. But actually, people deserve our very best. And if you've got people that have a certain perspective, a certain viewpoint, if you soften your tone for someone who's older, or actually if you've got someone who's really hyperactive and you like getting really energetic and you're really hands, people buy into that and they like that because they want to buy from people that they like. So by just observing, and one of the biggest mistakes people make in sales is they want to presume and assume that they know the other person better than they do. Our radars are not as good as we like to think. My dad used to, and still now, doesn't really believe sat navs are that helpful. Like, he gets lost all the time, right? And here's the silly thing. The reason he does it is once in his life, he had a sat nav 25 years ago or 20 years ago that nearly took him to a river. Like, you know, those stupid stories we see on the sun. Okay, that's one instance. They get used millions of times every day and they seem to be fine. And it's using the facts when you're in sales. So it's being mindful of the questions we ask. It's be asking the right questions and then knowing what to do with the answers. And then once you've got the right answers, you understand the person. And then when you understand the person, you can adapt the conversation so that they see it in the way that they like to receive it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a dramatic difference.
It's classic. I suppose it's a bit of NLP. It's a bit of sort of positive psychology, but it's also taking someone through their model of the world, right? And I understand completely what you mean about using words and language that they use because it will be relatable. It makes them want to, essentially get to know you in that way. And at the end of the day, sales is a people game, right? And I remember this with the first day I started my first big boy job when I was about 18 years old. My boss said to me, Jack, people buy people in this world. So long as you're nice and so long as you kind of, make them feel like they're being listened to, you'll be all right. And I was like, fine. I've always stuck with that thing all the way through. So let's talk about mistakes because, it's all well and good knowing how to do all these things, but what are the biggest common mistakes that you see people making that can almost lose them a sale in a second?
One, over talking. Over talking is a massive problem. And you're not doing it for the purpose of the other person. You're doing it for yourself. If you're in a sales environment and you cannot learn to ask a question and shut up, you're putting yourself in a really bad position. Because of our silly phones and our computers and how much time we spend, we don't spend a lot of time doing nothing at all. Well, how many times have we all done this? Right, going to put my phone off, put the TV on, right? So when we get in a sales environment and we're going in for a deal, say you're buying a house and I'm your estate agent or realtor, and we've gone through everything and I've shown you the house and I've asked you the questions and I know you really like it. And I sit there and I go, okay, cool. So listen, just to let you know, we know there's been an offer at 800,000 already. They've turned that down. If you were going to go in, I'd recommend about probably 835. What do you think of this so far? At your point in your head, you could be thinking, right, so 835. So if I do this and if I do that, and you could do this, and actually if you do the kitchen, like this 8 or 10 seconds, it could have passed. You haven't once had an objection or problem. You're actually thinking about what do we need to do. But then as a salesperson, I'm like, oh, what we could do is, and then I break your mindset. And they're like, what? Oh, hang on a minute. So then they get uncertainty. Now they're uncertain about the very thing. And it wasn't for the fact of them. You just didn't put yourself in that person's position and think, well, what are their main concerns? What could they be thinking? And two people are, when you see a parent with their kid, careful, Johnny, you're going to fall. Don't do that, you're going to fall off the wall, right? And all that stuff. Salespeople do that in sales processes. Oh, if there's a problem with this, and if there's a problem with that, and if you don't want to do this, there wasn't a problem. You presumed there was a problem. You presumed the silence was an issue because you're not used to shutting up. But actually, you want to be able to be so effective and competent that I can sit here, ask you a question, and just wait. And give you the chance and give you the opportunity to ponder. Now, here's what can happen sometimes. After about a minute, the person that you're trying to sell goes, is everything all right? Now, that tells you something clear. 1, you are not in the same place as they are. 2, you didn't have their attention. 3, that you didn't build enough interest before you went for the close. And 4, they're not even in a position where they're starting to think about buying. You're having a conversation and they weren't even listening to you enough to pay attention. You've asked the proper question. Now, if that happens, that's a good thing because, which sounds messed up, but it is actually a good thing because when you know where the weakness is in your pitch, you can adapt it. If all you're doing is talking over people, you will get some deals. Even a blind pig will find some corn, as a phrase someone said to me before. Like if you're sniffing around long enough and you're selling long enough, you're going to get deals. But that doesn't mean that what you're doing is optimal, or effective. It just means you've got someone who is at the right point of buying. So one of the biggest mistakes is over talking. The second one is selling based on what they think the person needs. Like, we've got to grow up with some of this stuff, and we've got to really be like, really, everyone's like, oh, I'm so customer focused. Great. Tell me the top 5 things you know about your customer. Well, I know that Julie, who's my typical avatar, I may talk about the avatar and all that, and you go, great. So you know your avatar. But what do you know about the person right in front of you now? What's the question you're going to ask them? If you've got one question you can ask that person, what's it going to be? Okay, what's the next question? What's the next question? And why are we asking that? What's the idea behind it? And a lot of people, when we really knuckle down, they go, Dave, why are you asking me all this stuff? I go, because you've gone through the avatar, but you haven't gone through the process. You're asking questions that you want answers to, but you don't know why you want the answer. Like, if I'm going to ask you something now, there's got to be a reason of what I'm going to do with that information. Otherwise, I'm just getting you to fill out a survey. So utilizing the right questions. For example, a lot of people will ask loads of yes/no questions. Do you like this? Yes, brilliant. What are you going to do with that? Right? So utilizing open-ended questions of what, who, when, how, and why. Get the person talking. This gives you the ability to listen. Take good notes from that, because a lot of people don't take notes. Then know, irrelevant of any question you ask, you need to be able to know what I'm going to do with whatever answer they come with. So if I ask you any question, I can't just ask that question because there's an answer I want. I have to know what I'm going to do if the answer I don't want comes up as well. And I think that's one of the big mistakes. People try and lead people through. Just get them to say yes 50 times and they'll be hypnotized and buy. Shut up. Like, ask the right questions. Take the time to know your people. Know the processes that you've got. And I think for most people, if they do just that alone, the average person who's never sold before can become more effective.
It's so powerful, because you're absolutely right. The over talking, the sitting in silence is actually a really powerful skill that not a lot of people utilize. I think that we forget, and you hit the nail on the head there, that we don't sit in, we're not bored. When was the last time you were bored, David? Like, literally.
It doesn't really happen.
It never happens, right? Because if you think you're bored, you find something to do, right? There's a book that I read a couple of months ago by a guy called Nir Eyal, which is called Indistractable, right? And it talks about how in life we have this inability to actually just be indistracted.
Who wrote that,
His name is Nir. I've got it here. This one. Indistractable, Nir Eyal.
I'm ordering it today.
Mate, it's a great book, right? So what he did is he talks about how as the world we live in today, we are distracted more than ever. It's not because of mobile phones and tech, but it is a lot to do with that. But basically what he says is the reason we get distracted is because we are trying to, there is a discomfort and a pain that's going on somewhere inside us. So when we're hungry, we eat. When we're hot, we take off our clothes. When we're cold, put on a jacket, right? We're tired, we sleep. We are wired to avoid discomfort. So when boredom sits in, that's discomfort, right? Who likes to be bored, right? It's not a nice place to be. So we find something to do. And when you said that about talking, it's the same thing. When you're having a conversation with someone and someone doesn't say something back instantly, it's awkward, right? It's 99% of people in the world will be like, want to fill that silence. Yeah. I know I do it all the time, and I have to consciously stop myself. I do this thing where I pinch my finger and thumb. I go, and I don't let it go until the other person says something. I always
break ends off pens when I'm listening, because I just like get hypnotized by what I'm doing. And it's, I think everyone has that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But what it really says is that if you give someone the space to actually think for themselves, the sale can actually happen a lot quicker than people realize. Because as you said, some of the best questions you can ask are, what is it you want to achieve? What can I do to help you achieve that? And if everything you've just said is a bit available right now and I can give it to you for the price that you're willing to pay, would that be okay for you? And like those 3 questions could get someone to go, yes, okay, great. And there's no objections, there's no anything else that comes with it. And I think that that's one of the most powerful things about sales, is that less is more. Because if you start opening up to like, oh, this could be this could be that, people then think, oh, I didn't think of that. Now that's a problem, and then an objection comes in.
I think it's interesting what you're saying. I think with the listening side now, we all like to feel that we're experts.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, I know the answer to this one. I know the answer to pick me, right? And people are in the listening to reply mode, not the listening to understand. And this is why I love talking to people like yourself. You talk about a book, I'm like, what is that book? Like, I want to understand what you're saying. Like, I'm addicted to understanding people. And that's because I've worked the muscle for so long in sales that I don't talk for the majority of the time. Like, you shouldn't.
No.
You should be able to ask such good questions. You ask questions, shut up and then sit and go, and why's that? How's that? Well, how did that make you feel? And then all of that comes out, and they're like, oh, I feel really good. I've spoken to you for ages. And you go, oh, no, it's good. Because that's what people want to do. We all like to hear ourselves. And I think we cut people off.
Absolutely right. I love that. So on just while we're on this topic of mistakes, what are the objections, right? Objections handling is one of the biggest and hardest things about sales generally, because it's the thing that stops you from making the sale. In your opinion, right, what are the hardest objections to overcome in your 20 years of being in this space?
I have a big thing with objections. Objections are actually really helpful, and no one likes hearing this, but it's true. The very thing that stops some people pushes some people on. And a lot of the time when people are talking about objections, the big problem with objections is a lot of the time people are asking daft questions and they get daft answers, and they end up getting smokescreen objections. And they don't get enough trust with the people that they feel comfortable and confident that they can be honest with you, because those people are used to someone trying to handle their objections. So then they'll just drop out no money, or it's this, or it's that, or whatever it is. But actually, if you can identify the difference between a smokescreen objection and a real objection, you're in a far better place to start with. Before people even trying to handle objections, you need to know whether it's a real objection. And this isn't the point where we just log in and get the radar out and think we know everything because we've done sales for 10 years and all this nonsense. And this is what I talk to companies about all the time. Oh, well, whenever I hear that, I say this. Well, it's a different person. Oh, buyers are all liars. No. Buyers lie because they don't feel comfortable to talk to you honestly, because they know you're going to try and handle it. Someone turns around to me and gives me an objection, and they turn around. Someone said, oh, what do you do if someone tells you they don't like you? End the call. Like, I'm not here to get, I'm not trying to sell everyone. I don't need to sell everyone. Should you handle objections? Yes. But there's certain objections that are just pointless. Like, if someone doesn't like me, cool, don't hire me. That, I'm fine with that. Absolutely fine. Would you like me to pass you on to someone who'll help you? Because if you don't like me, you're not going to take all my information. As a coach, you've got to like the way I work. Otherwise, you won't action it, and then you won't give me a good review. Like, that doesn't help. And I'm not desperate for the money. So, based on the fact if someone likes you, you should actually do you should sell before you get to the objection point. Do I still get objections? Of course. But I pre-frame my whole conversation based around a lot of the objections. I do a lot of the work before the objections come up. I pre-qualify people before they come to me. So let's take away the fact of, say, the pre-qualification on coaching. Let's talk about in a normal, typical product, and someone throws an objection. Give me an industry, Jack. Tell me a product. Imagine we've got something, and you're going to object to it.
Right. Let's go. Changing your gas supplier. Get a cold call from someone who's like, "Hi, I want to. How's your gas supplier doing? Do you think you can get a better deal?"
Okay. Now, by the way, anyone who's watching this back, I get massive anxiety whenever I ask this, but I know it's the best way to stay sharp, because worst case, I screw it up. So, someone turns around to me, they want to do a gas supplier, and they come up and they say, "Oh, it's too expensive," right? The easiest thing to do at any point is if I could get the price right for you, would you get started? If I could get the right terms for you, would you get started? If I could do this, if I could do that, would you then? If I would you? It is the most simple and effective way to isolate an objection, but it also handles the objection. Because if you turn around to me, honestly, this will make you thousands and thousands of pounds on a. This increased my conversion by about 10%. Just this. Like, I don't know why I tell people it's free. I should just keep it for. But I genuinely, it makes such a difference. Because imagine I'm talking to you. You're just going to throw objections at me, right? Okay, cool. So give me the first objection.
It's too much of a hassle to change.
Cool. If I could click my fingers now and it was done right now, would you get started? Give me another objection.
I'm not sure. I need to chat to my wife.
Cool. So let's imagine for the moment, I could do it all for you, and the wife said yes. Would you get started then?
Okay. Well, look, I've just got to check my account. I'm not sure I've got enough money in to switch.
Mate, I don't blame you. Stuff expensive in it. So imagine for a minute, we click our fingers, wife says yes, money's in the account, and I did it all for you. Would anything else hold you back today?
No, nothing would hold me back.
Right? So where are we at? Now, some people, oh, that's pressure. It's not pressure. It's just asking a question. Now, bear in mind, this is the point where you probably spoke for 15 minutes. They've already gauged it, you've already qualified them, all the other stuff. Then, if you come around and go, okay, cool. So imagine if we do it. Now what do we do? Now we break down each and every step. Because then, at the end of a conversation, you go, okay, so if a wife said yes, we had the money in the account, and we could take the hassle away, you get started. Yeah, I'll be on. Okay, cool. So let's start with first and foremost. Let's go through the terms. Now, one of my clients at the moment, one of the people we've been talking to, this is something we've done. Let's see if this could be a good fit. Would it be reasonable? And you start with, would it be reasonable to say that if I could do X, that would be a fair compromise on this? Now, if you turn around and go, okay, well, actually, that's quite, yep, that could work for me. Great. I'm not guaranteeing we can do everything. Is it fair to say that, and then you come into about the wife or the partner? Is it fair to say the big concern about the partner would be that it's not going to be a good offer and then blah, 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 you pre-qualify? Great. Okay, so if we could get A, B, and C done, would it be reasonable to say that she would be accepting that? He would be accepting that? Yeah or no would be this problem. Okay, cool. Right? And then we go through the money. And then at the money, you go through it. Okay, cool. Would you say, but we've done quite good on this so far? Yeah, pretty good. Would you have it, and this is when you drop it in, would you have any objection to getting this done with our terms, which is going to cover you on A, B, whatever the terms are going to be, but if in 30 days it changes, blah, 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 blah. Would you have any objection to that? Now, what we're doing at that point is we're selling using the no, because it's easy to turn around and say to someone, I know I'd give this stuff away, right? If we turn around to someone and say, okay, do you want to get started? Yes, no, we lean to no automatically. But if we sell with the no, if you sell asking for an objection, then they've got to think of a precise thing. No is a broad statement. To get asked for an objection, they have to give you an objection. Would you have any objections to us doing X? Yes. Great. What's the objection? They have to be precise. And that is just the easy way to do it.
And the 9 times out of 10, the precise answer is them usually clutching at straws or them trying to think of another excuse why they don't want to do it, which isn't them.
I give people an out all the time. If after doing, if I would you, and then you've gone through and you've isolated every area, and they turn around and go, listen, can I just completely lay my cards on the table? You seem like you want it. You seem like you're interested. You're qualified for it. It's going to save you money. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. Is this just the fact that you're worried it ain't going to work? And most of the time I go, oh, yeah, I fucked it up. Sorry, we screwed up before. This happened or that happened, or I did it before and it didn't work out, or my wife was fuming when I did this last time. Okay, cool. And then you break it down to this is when we break it down to the real granular. And this is, I don't know why I've done this whole closing training on this. So anyone who does this, send me right, but then we break it down. And I try around to go, Jack, I'm happy to remove you off the system if you don't want this. But there's one thing I'd like to ask you. If you are serious about this and it's just trying to get the right terms, but you and the wife would be happy with, would you mind if we spend 2 minutes going through something now that can really either wipe this off the list or we'll go ahead? Is that fair enough? Jack's going to turn around and say, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Okay, cool. So let's look at this. Let's imagine I'm completely terrible at this, but what we supply is awful. What would that look like for you? We've changed it over. How would that look? Okay, well, it might be more expensive and this might not work and that might not. Okay, how likely is it, do you think that's going to happen? Do you think 10% chance, 90%? Oh, God, no, but I know, say 20% chance. Okay, good. Now let's look at the positive. Imagine we get this done and we do save you £800 a year on your thing. It was low hassle and your wife was happy. What would you do with that £800? We'd probably go on holiday. Okay, cool. Where would you go? I don't know. The kids driving mad about going to Centre Parks, going, oh, cool. How old's your kids? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. What's the likelihood you think that's going to happen? Well, it's probably 70%. Okay, cool. So this is where we're at now. There's a 70% chance you can be in Centre Parks in 6 months' time, a year's time, with the kids from taking this step. There's a 30% chance that you might get a little bit of drama, that this might happen. Which one do you want to go with? And you just lay that.
Yeah. 70%. Yeah, it's absolutely. And I think what you've done there, which is really smart, is you've taken it away from the logical side and attached it to the emotional side, which is exactly what I think a lot of people forget is that actually the product itself is a thing, but it's what the product does for you that is the thing that people buy, right? Which I think is great. And obviously gas, even though gas is a boring thing, you know, most of the time you're buying a product, you're buying it for the emotional attachment, the thing it's going to bring you, the happiness, the joy, the whatever it's going to bring you. And so you have to relate that back to the main person's life.
If that matters to them. Some people don't like their kids, and that's not being harsh. They just don't. Like, they're not into. Like, I know people like, oh, have you got kids? Okay, cool. Well, you can tell. And they're like, well, I don't really. I spoke to a guy before. He's like, I genuinely don't want to give my kids anything more. Like, they're like in their 20s. This guy's in his 60s. His kids are in their 20s. One was a lawyer. One was a copper. Like, they didn't need anything. It's like, why do my kids care what I do with it? Right? We've got to really think about the steps behind all of the questions. And by doing the takeaway, by having the opportunity, by having the right system, but this is why the questions are so important. Because if we didn't ask the right questions at the start, we won't get to this right stage. And when we're at the right stage, you don't want to go down this road with someone if they are not actually really qualified, actually shown all the interest, they've answered all the questions, they hate NPower or whoever they're using, and blah, blah, blah. If you just come straight in with, hi, do you have kids? Would you like to take them to Centre Parks? We can help you do that today. But you might get some business from that, but not much. Right? And you fired all your bullets. So when objections come around, you've got nowhere to go with it.
Love it. Love it. You reminded me there of that. Do you remember Phone Jacker?
Yes.
Terry Tibbs. It was
Tibbs.
Centre Parks. Talk to me. How many kids? 2.5. Got a dog. Yeah, loves it.
Terry Tibbs.
Oh, it's so good, mate. So good. Look, David, this has been amazing, and I've written down loads of notes because you've got so much gold in that noggin of yours, and I love it. And I think that anyone should go and check out. First of all, your TED Talk. When's it live?
Now you can.
It's live now. Perfect. Cool. Right.
You can type in on YouTube David Angel TEDx. And yeah,
I'm gonna go watch that because I haven't seen it yet, so I'm gonna go see that. Second thing, where can people find you? I've got this is your handle that's come up on the screen now. That's Instagram. Where else can people find you?
Instagram's the best place. You can find me on all the socials under the same stuff anyway. Instagram's the main one because I post every day. I'm a big believer in giving a lot of the content away. I mean, I have a platform that's got 580 videos on, so I give a video away a day. It's not like people can go to Instagram and live there and grab it for free, or they buy it and they get it on a bundle instead. So at the Sales Angel's good. You can go to thesalesangel.com, which gives you a demo on our platform if you've got business to business or sales teams. Or if you want a free training, you can go to mastersales.club, and there's like a 58-minute lead generation masterclass there, which really breaks down, like we were talking earlier, about buying types, but also about how to bring people from they don't know you through to a buying stage in a systematized 16-step follow-up. So it's really, really helpful. And it's free.
I love that. That's, I mean, in itself is worth its weight in gold. So, mate, I super appreciate you spending some time with me today. And I know that my 900 strong Facebook group, LinkedIn, and YouTube channel will definitely love this. So, mate, if there's anyone out there watching this that wants to get in touch with David, you know where to find him. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be implementing some of those things in some people that I'm looking to sell to over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, look out if anyone's coming, got a phone call with me soon. It's good. Mate, always a pleasure. I'll speak to you soon. Take it easy.